What's happening, my fellow ghouls and ghoulettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Cosplay Chris, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my personal rankings of all of Jason Voorhees' designs from the Friday the 13th franchise. So in terms of judging my worst to best Jason designs, we're just going to be going by aesthetic, not by the performance of the actor under the costume and makeup, just purely aesthetic. And if there's a look under the mask that happens in any of the films, I'm also going to be judging that as well. Now keep in mind, my list is very mixed and very sporadic, and this is very subjective, and I know everyone's going to have their own different opinion on what their worst Jason is and their best Jason is, so please drop a comment below and let me know your rankings of your best to worst Jason Voorhees designs. Now this right here is a relic. This is a replica of the Freddy vs. Jason Voorhees mask that I purchased back in 2004. It was one of my very first purchases on eBay. I had to use my mum's account, I had to ask her permission, and it's made of fiberglass, very old school, and I've had it since then. This thing is nearly 20 years old. So I broke it out of storage for this video, as well as the chuckster, as well as the lament configuration box, so it's all happening. Now we've got 12 iterations of Jason to get through, so with that being said, let's get to number 12. Number 12 is the Jason Goes to Hell look, and we only get a short glimpse of this look of Jason at the beginning of the film. As we all know, Jason Goes to Hell is a very different film. It does have a cult following nowadays, but when it first came out, it was not received well. Don't get me wrong, I dig this look of Jason, I just don't like the overall puffy aesthetic. I love the idea that apparently it carries over from Jason Takes Manhattan, where the aesthetic of his head and the toxic sludge that hit his skin is melting, it's deteriorating, and it's like fusing over the mask. I also love the look of the chrome mask, and they're still keeping the continuity of part 7 there, and with the axe hit in the hockey mask. To me, he looks a bit too bulky, teetering on a little bit puffy, if that makes sense. I guess my only real gripe with this one is they should have just made him a bit more built, like he was in, say, The New Blood, because Kane Hodder is reprising his role for Jason Goes to Hell, so you figure they keep that continuity with the physique. Anyway, with that being said, number 11. Number 11 goes to the Freddy vs. Jason Voorhees look. I have a fond nostalgia for Freddy vs. Jason, as I mentioned in my ranking the makeup designs for Freddy Krueger. It was a big deal when it came out in 2003 because the internet was gearing up in terms of viral campaigns, social media, and it was a massive buzz before this film came out and after this film came out. And there's a lot of behind the scenes shots of Ken Kirzinger, who portrays Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, in and out of makeup with the hockey mask off and his hood on. And reflecting on it now, it's probably the dopiest looking Jason, if that makes sense. Granted, he does have these dopey looks in other films, but I think this is the goofiest look. And he's a tower in this film. Ken Kirzinger is a big dude. And just the layered burlap and everything, it's kind of a bit overkill, if that makes sense. So there's that shot at the beginning of Freddy vs. Jason where Jason opens his eyes as he's awakened by Freddy or his mum, Pamela Voorhees, and you see like he's got one eye closed and it's like flickering, and one eye is working, and then with the hood they've got the dopey eye, and it just doesn't work. It looks cheesy, like a cheesy Halloween costume. I must say though, I love the hockey mask and what the hockey mask goes through in this film. I love it when it's got the scratches on it from Freddy's glove, and I love the look of the hockey mask right at the end at the scene on the dock where it's just mangled, wrecked, chipped, covered in just caked on, coagulated blood. But there is a behind the scenes shot of what the full face looks like right here. Now don't get me wrong, all these designs have something special. These are just my rankings of, you know, least favorite to favorite. So with that being said, number 10. Number 10 goes to the remake Jason from the Friday the 13th Platinum Dunes reboot. So we're not going to be judging the actor or the characterization of Jason, we're purely just going by aesthetic in this video. But if I had to give an award for characterization and brutality, this Jason would probably take the cake. This guy runs, this guy sprints, this guy is brutal in this film. Derek Mears does a fantastic job portraying Jason, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the aesthetic of Jason. Overall, I do dig this look. I just think the hockey mask is way too small for the hood, the face, the prosthetics and stuff like that that Derek Mears wears, because he's a big guy, he's got a pretty big noggin on him, and it just feels like the hockey mask isn't on par in terms of scale with the rest of the face. Granted, he does just find that hockey mask in the film and it's not always going to be a perfect fit, so I understand that continuity there. I just feel like it just could have hugged the face a bit better. Apart from that, the remake's a fucking damn good film, man. It's severely underrated. Underrated. Get your words right, Stanley. Anyway, number 9. This is probably gonna upset a few people, but it's only because we see it for a split second, and to me they were still figuring out the cogs with the makeup, and it's nothing to deter from Tom Savini because that guy's a fucking master. The part 1 Jason, the first Friday the 13th Jason that we see right at the end of the film, where he jumps out of the lake and scares the absolute shit out of all of us. It is a goofy design because he is supposed to be kind of that mongoloid, you know, freak show kind of design, but it does really nothing for me. It teeters on silly in a way, and I guess that's what they were going for. But either way, I do appreciate what Tom Savini did in that film, and subsequently the other parts of the Friday the 13th franchise that he was involved with. Number 8 goes to Uber Jason, okay? Uber Jason. I'm gonna do a little special mention, honorary mention in this part here for the regular look of Jason from Jason X, but I'm gonna be concentrating on Uber Jason. Now, on its own, I think this is a really badass look. Kane Hodder looks amazing in this. This is very different from the Jason we're used to seeing, and we do have the sort of traditional look of Jason at the beginning of Jason X. Very tattered, a lot of burlap, sort of the traditional hockey mask, a lot more sharper in the overall design. But then when we get to Uber Jason and he gets his upgrades, it's fucking awesome, man. Like hockey mask and all, even, I wouldn't even call it a hockey mask. I'd call this thing like a faceplate. I love the foam latex body of it, the texture of it, and then going from that into the mechanical parts. I think because this film dared to be so different, and they dared to be so different with this design of Jason, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate that they had the balls to give this sort of look a crack. Granted, the film wasn't the best. I really have a soft spot for this look. Coming in at number 7 is Sackhead Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2. This is where we see the first sort of iteration of Jason, of how he will be portraying himself throughout the rest of the franchise. And I think it's just because it's the Sackhead that kind of really does nothing for me in that sense, but it's also good to see the origin of where this amazing character and this historical character in horror film history has started out. The makeup under there is brilliant. It's that proper hillbilly inbred kind of look, and just it's really off-putting. I think that's why I've got this so low on the list. Well, not so low, but it's sort of meeting at the halfway point. I would have loved to have seen more of that makeup in action, but I get it, you kind of don't want to reveal too much of the monster. But at the end of the day, he is just wearing a burlap sack. But as my ring says, Sig Parvis Magna, greatness from small beginnings. Number 6 goes to the look of Jason from Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. This is a cool design, but the continuity and the idea of it is pretty wacky. It's Jason gathering all these pieces like as if he knows what's going on. He's got the paintball belt and everything. He's got like Wells Lamont leather gloves. The hockey mask is sick. I really do love the finishing work on this, that matte, subtle browns, earthy tones. It's beautiful to look at. I just think because Jason Lives, he's resurrected, he could have just been so much more disgusting. Mind you, the resurrection scene is badass, and that makeup with the eye and the maggots and all that, that is beautiful. But for the most part, I think there could have been a bit more distressing, a bit more weathering, a bit more shininess to this costume, but nonetheless, still a pretty cool look of Jason. Number 5 goes to Jason's look in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. So we all know this is a copycat killer in this film. It turns out to be Roy that we see at the beginning of the film. But this look at Jason, it's fine. Like there's nothing really extremely memorable about it or very bad about it. It's one of those things where, okay, this is a copycat killer. It's not exactly going to be a rotting corpse walking around. So I totally dig the aesthetic. I dig the design from a storytelling standpoint. It just makes sense to me. Nothing really else to say about it. It's fine. It works. Okay, we're going into top 4 territory now, Ghouls and Ghoulettes. So at number 4, we have, this is gonna probably upset a few people, but that's fine, it's all subjective, the Jason Takes Manhattan look. The film is shit, don't get me wrong, but I love the look of this costume. I love the way Kane Hodder moves in this costume. I love the hockey mask. I love the direction they took with the hockey mask and the costume. I love the different placing of the decals. Granted, they do look like Apu's moustache when he walks past the room with too much electricity, but I love how just oozy and shiny and slick the whole thing is. It looks like he's just walked out of a giant vat of oil. And I know this scene is very goofy right at the end where he gets the toxic sludge thrown on him and he pulls his hockey mask off and he makes that weird noise. But that makeup there is sick, and I love that we only see it for a little snippet. Just leaves you wanting more, but the fact that he's starting to melt and his eyes like gooey and his teeth are all just munched up gnarliness. I love that. Look, this probably is an unpopular opinion for where I've ranked this certain design, but I think also because I have a fond nostalgia, because it was one of the first Fridays that I saw when I was in high school, but I also just dig the overall aesthetic. I love the yellowness of that hockey mask, love the makeup design even though we see it for a split second, and also love that costume. It is just in tatters, looks like it stinks like absolute shit. Coming in at number 3 is the look from Friday the 13th Part 3. This is where we see fully formed Super Saiyan Jason, hockey mask Glorian, or when he finally acquires his hockey mask. And look, it's a pretty plain Jane design in terms of the costume. You know, you got your olive green shirt, the pants, the boots, the machete, the hockey mask, but it really works. It's simplicity at its finest. I've seen some beautiful statues that people own from like Sideshow and stuff like that, recreating this look. And it looks beautiful. It's just a simple museum piece, and the overall aesthetic looks great. The hockey mask looks great. It is based on an actual hockey mask. If I can find the photo, I will throw it up here, but they did base the design on an actual existing retailing hockey mask. The makeup underneath is awesome. I love the look, and there was actually a first pass of makeup that Stan Winston did, as you can see right here, and I'm not gonna lie, I prefer that look. It's meaner and more brutish. Don't get me wrong, the makeup that made the final cut of the film, still love it, but anything Stan Winston does is great, even if it is a Halloween H2O mask. But this makeup was great, and it looked like it was really scary when it was put to film, but ultimately it was scrapped. We're coming into our top 2 now, Ghouls and Ghoulettes. At second place is Jason's look from Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This is a really hard decision. Obviously, you guys know what is going to be number 1, and I was going back and forth with, nah, Part 7 is going to be number 1, okay, it's number 2. But I settled on it. Part 7's look is number 2 in my ranking. This iteration of Jason is fucking brilliant, because it was designed, fabricated by John Carl Buechler, who also directed the film, and he is a phenomenal makeup artist. Rest in peace. I love the fact that his shoulder blades and his spine are on show. He is just falling apart, yet he is still going through people like a force of nature. I love the propeller blade cut on the hockey mask. They've still got a lot of continuity going on in this costume. And John Carl Buechler made that evident in an interview. He said, I wanted this costume to recognize all the damage that had been done to Jason in the previous Fridays. The guy gives this shit. It's beautiful. It's not just some schmuck director saying, hey, just throw a hockey mask and olive green Sears tradewear jumpsuit or shirt on him. No, let's actually have some continuity with this design. And for that, mad respect, sir. Let's move on to number 1. You guys know what that's gonna be. It is gonna be Jason's look from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Reason being, this is my number 1. Love the look, love the bloodiness of it, but I also have a very fond nostalgia for this, and it is my favorite look of Jason with a hockey mask and without. The end sequence of this film is brutal. When Jason cops that machete to the side of the head from Tommy Jarvis and he slides down on the machete, my skin crawled. My skin still does crawl, and that is why Tom Savini is such a damn good makeup artist. He makes our skin crawl. The hockey mask is quite simplistic, much like the Part 3 design. It carries on over from Part 3 in terms of the overall aesthetic of it, but then we also see Jason's beautiful mug under that hockey mask. It's such a cool design, and like I was mentioning about seeing those beautiful statues of the Part 3 Jason, I've seen many life-size busts of the Part 4 makeup, and I love it. It's beautiful to display without a hockey mask. That is when you know you've done a damn good Jason design. And there we have it. That's my #1 Ghouls and Ghoulettes. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I know this probably isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea in terms of my choices from worst to best Jason designs, but please, with that being said, drop a comment below and let me know what is your least favorite design right up to your favorite design of Jason Voorhees. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. We are well underway to the spooky season. So next up, I'm going to be doing a video on 5 things you didn't know about Freddy Krueger's glove. Sounds silly, but trust me, you're gonna learn something. Guys, wherever you are in the world, have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly. And until next time, Ghouls and Ghoulettes, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.